Herculez Gomez explains why Mexico fans booed El Tri after their win over Scotland and why the players are behind Juan Carlos Osorio. Sebastian, Salazar and Herculez Gomez reflect on Rafael Marquez's contributions to El Tri and how he might fit into Juan Carlos Osorio's World Cup plan. Sebastian, Salazar and Herculez Gomez talk all things Giovani dos Santos, including what his role on El Tri would be if he makes Mexico's final World Cup roster. Mexico's 1-0 victory over Scotland on Saturday was likely Juan Carlos Osorio's last game in charge of El Tri in Mexico. The official line from the Colombian has been that the prospect of leading a generational change within the Mexican national team and bringing through younger players is appealing. And while he hasn't ruled that out, if Mexico has a good World Cup, it's become almost an open secret that the 56-year-old Osorio will be looking for fresh pastures after Russia 2018. There have already even been rumors about a potential meeting between André Villaboas and the Mexican Federation in Europe in coming days, as El Tri anticipates a future without Osorio. Boos rang out and calls of Osorio out erupted from the Estadio Azteca stands toward the end of the victory against Scotland. But despite not being the most popular figure in Mexico, Osorio's stock has risen outside the country during his time with El Tri. Winning two-thirds of the games and qualifying Mexico to the World Cup with ease naturally helps, but so has the way he has maintained his dignity and stuck to his principles in the face of some fierce criticism. Others might have buckled in what Osorio has described as one of the most difficult jobs in football. It's a great irony that while Mexico fans haven't taken to Osorio, the 56-year-old was offered a new contract by the federation over the winter and won't be short of job opportunities if he does move on. In April, Osorio told ESPN-FC that he would be interested in 2 or 3 jobs and that European clubs had been in contact. People contacting me? Yes. I would say there has been enough interest, Osorio said. I keep saying to everybody the reasons why I would be interested in what you are offering are A, B and C. Osorio is likely to want to take his time to weigh up his next move, despite sporadic reports stating he already has a job lined up. And there is little chance Osorio will be distracted by his own future during Russia 2018, which is the biggest opportunity of his career. Juan Carlos Osorio has been successful in the face of fierce criticism but will likely leave Mexico after the World Cup. Anything would have to be done after the World Cup, not before, because my main objective now is to have a good World Cup and earn my right to be asked to continue with Mexico, and then I will decide, he said in the same interview with ESPN. A good World Cup and top of Osorio's list would likely be England, the country in which he spent 2 years studying in Liverpool and worked as a conditioning coach and then assistant manager at Manchester City. The bilingual former Atlético Nacional manager respects the physicality and the challenges of countering direct football in the Premier League, and becoming the first Colombian, and only 7th South American, to manage there would be a major achievement. Osorio's trips to Europe over the past year have seen him visit Arsene Wenger, Louis van Gaal, Sir Alex Ferguson, Gareth Southgate, Julen Lopetegui and Gus Hiddink, amongst others. The mission is to squeeze knowledge and bits of information out to improve himself as a coach, but networking in Europe also puts his name into managerial circles. Managing in La Liga and the Bundesliga would also likely appeal to Osorio, although the problem, like with England, is that when Mexico's participation comes to a close in Russia there likely won't be too many positions still open. That opens the door to national teams, even if Osorio has said he misses working and developing players on a day-to-day basis. Osorio's name has already been linked with both Colombia and the United States. As far as the U.S. is concerned, Osorio has admitted that the job would appeal to him, and it isn't difficult to see why. He's spent a large portion of his adult life in the United States, knows the game well there, and the opportunity exists to create something special with a young group of players hungry to make up for the disastrous 2018 World Cup qualifying campaign. Then there is the Colombia job, which might well become vacant at the end of the World Cup as well, with Argentine Jose Pekerman expected to leave. Osorio is held in high esteem in his homeland and would be a natural frontrunner for the role given his success at Atlético Nacional and his experience at the international level with Mexico. Making history with Mexico is the priority right now for Osorio, but seeing which direction his career heads after Russia 2018 also promises to be interesting. Tom Marshall covers Liga MX and the Mexican national team for ESPN FC. Twitter, @Mexico World Cup. Page 2 Herculez Gomez explains why Mexico fans booed El Tri after their win over Scotland and why the players are behind Juan Carlos Osorio. Sebastian, Salazar and Herculez Gomez reflect on Rafael Marquez's contributions to El Tri and how he might fit into Juan Carlos Osorio's World Cup plan. Sebastian, Salazar and Herculez Gomez talk all things Giovani dos Santos, including what his role on El Tri would be if he makes Mexico's final World Cup roster. Mexico's 1-0 victory over Scotland on Saturday was likely Juan Carlos Osorio's last game in charge of El Tri in Mexico. The official line from the Colombian has been that the prospect of leading a generational change within the Mexican national team and bringing through younger players is appealing. And while he hasn't ruled that out, if Mexico has a good World Cup, it's become almost an open secret that the 56-year-old Osorio will be looking for fresh pastures after Russia 2018. There have. Herculez Gomez explains why Mexico fans booed El Tri after their win over Scotland and why the players are behind Juan Carlos Osorio. Mexico City, boos intermingling with chants of Osorio out. That was how El Tri concluded the first phase of World Cup preparation as the final whistle blew in Saturday evening's friendly against Scotland at Estadio Azteca. Somebody entering the stadium during the last 10 minutes without knowing the score would have thought Mexico were losing 3-0 and the players had caved in, weren't playing for manager Juan Carlos Osorio, and that everything at the upcoming World Cup points to doom for them. The FC crew discuss how Neymar's health factors into Brazil's chances to win the World Cup after his goal against Croatia and his return from injury. Tight raves about Neymar's first outing following a 3-month injury layoff, but the Brazil star concedes he's not fully recovered just yet. Fred comments on rumors linking him with the move to Man United, while Brazil boss Tite urges him to solve his situation as quickly as possible. Liverpool, England. 3 quick thoughts from Brazil's 2-0 win over Croatia as both sides continue their preparations for the 2018 World Cup. 1. Neymar caps return with goal as Brazil win. It was the first time in over 3 months that Neymar set foot on a pitch, and it only took 24 minutes from there for him to announce that he was back after injury. Our warm-up game was lit up by the mere presence of the world's most expensive footballer, let alone his impact on it. Introduced at halftime. Stockholm, Sweden. 3 things we learned as Sweden and Denmark warmed up for the World Cup with a 0-0 draw at the Friends Arena. 1. A tale of 2 Scandinavian styles. Sweden and Denmark have plenty of shared history, but their approaches to football draw from different sources. The Swedes tend to look towards a more physical, defensive game, while the Danes are an anomaly in the Nordics in their love of inventive, technical players. It's no coincidence that 3 of the Danish World Cup. The FC crew talk about England's attacking threat but are far more worried of their defensive woes ahead of the World Cup. Questa Sports' Colin Nuno and ESPN's Alison Bender discuss the pros and cons from England's narrow win over Nigeria at Wembley. Harry Kane, Kieran Trippier and Gary Cahill defended Raheem Sterling after the winger was criticised for having a gun tattooed on his leg. ESPN's Alison Bender gets the thoughts of England fans outside Wembley on how deep a run the 3 Lions can make in the World Cup. London. 3 thoughts from Wembley on England's 2-1 win over Nigeria in a pre-World Cup international friendly. 1. England hold off Nigeria. Questions remain. England's pre-tournament friendlies can often present false hope for when things really matter. A couple of years ago Roy Hodgson's men came from 2-0 down to brilliantly beat Germany 3-2 in Berlin, and it was tempting to think about what success they could achieve in France. A couple of months later, they were humiliated by Iceland, and Edson Alvarez has a skill set that Mexico might really need given injuries ahead of the World Cup. Los Angeles, we won't be taking about Monday's 0-0 draw between Mexico and Wales in 20 years' time. It won't even be mentioned very often in the coming days as El Tri builds up to its farewell game in Mexico City against Scotland. It's difficult to read too much into Mexico's performance and how it relates to the World Cup, given that only two definite starters against Germany, Javier Hernandez and Hector Herrera, were on the field as the game kicked off. Of the defensive unit, none of the back